And welcome guys to the second game of HANS NEPO match in Belgrade. First game, NEPO won with a very nice game, very nice endgame grind in Ring Pass, very famous exchange line. Currently now they're listening to Serbian Antion. In the first rows we have famous Grandmaster Ljubomir Ljubovic. He leaves a lot of history for the Serbian and Balkan chess history. Also we see the captain for the women national team, Alisa Maric, and many other delegation, also the government body of Serbia, that will spectate the second match, Hans Niemann, Jan Nepomniachtchi. We are about to begin. Welcome to the stream. I'll be your commentator for match HANS and NEPO. If you already watched the game 1, you already know that we were here together analyzing the first game, and we are getting the famous line in Rosalimo. Bishop b5, e6, knight c6, and takes. This is quite known line, and NEPO is choosing to keep complications on the board. My name is Eleyah, FIDE master from Serbia, and great to meet you here. As far as I know, this is bad line. For example, d takes e6 is not good in this position because you already played the move e6, and there is an option directly for white to play the move 5 and simply close up everything here. Like, you can start with e6, and if black tries to play something like queen c7 to get e5 on the board, that's practically will be bad because e5 and white is already slightly better. So b takes e6, and of course Niemann goes for d3. At this point, his idea is just to keep the structure very natural. He wants to castle also short side, but it also depends what black will do, because in these positions it's actually quite common, as we already know, that playing f6 is never good, like opening up your king and opening up the light squares. But on the other side, it's actually nice in this position because NEPO will strengthen these dark squares here. Is there any problem with the mic? You can hear me well? Do you hear me, guys? There's some people complaining about the microphone. Like, you hear me well, right? Very, very well, I guess. Yeah. Some hecklers in the chat. Type 0 for them. Okay, so I know this position very well. First game, Real is not the greatest thing for me, but this type of structures I already explained. I even myself play here the move b3. Not d3 is the, according to book, according to the popularity, is the best option. b3 is the second most enthusiastic one, and it's simply because you want to place your bishop here, but not yet. He's waiting to put the bishop on b2 once the knight comes to e7, because now, if, let's say, black plays the move f6, then after bishop e2 doesn't really make sense to place the bishop here once the barrier happens. And knight h6, knight f7 will follow up to strengthen the e5 square also at the same time. But if, let's say, at this point HANS plays something like d3, then he's keeping the things flexible and optional. And the ideas of knight h4, f4 is quite famous. There's a lot of famous games in this position. In the game happened queen c7. So it's also a common move, keeping the things very, very flexible. But Niemann goes directly for e5. We are going to get some direct line. Now f6 is the best move, and it's pretty much the only move that keeps the evaluation bar on the same level, 0.2. Like, if you try something else, let's say knight to e7, then we're gonna have something like b3, and then bishop to b2 will strengthen d square. Like, you can notice the d squares are weakened. These structures are quite imbalanced, and position is not simple for black, especially when he gets in the time scramble in these sort of structures, what can result into a much better endgame positions. Time control is 60 plus 30, 60 minutes plus 30 seconds, and there is no increment for the rest of the game. It means after the 40th move, they are not getting time control. Both of them are blitzing out. They're actually most probably familiar with the theoretical part of this line. He wants to increase the tension with knight g6. Niemann castled. Both of them are quite prepared. Who will win, guys? Type 1 for Hans, type 2 for NEPO. Will I watch UEFA Champion League? Maybe. I'm not into the soccer football anymore, to be honest with you. I like tennis more. Okay, first time we see Nepo thinking in the opening, because the first game that he played was actually very convincing in the opening segment. He was blitzing out pretty much everything. Now we are seeing that he starts thinking out of the opening segment. Maybe he did not expect that Niemann will choose this specific line. But Niemann actually plays the Rosalimo. That's why Nepo decided to go for knight to c6. Is this first game? No, this is the second game of the first day. Earlier morning was the first game, and hopefully today we're gonna have more spectators. Already we have 350 on YouTube, on Twitch also the same way. Many people are already watching, and hopefully we break 1000 viewers very soon. So okay, Nepo decided to take on e5. This is one of the best lines. Bishop takes e5 or knight takes e5, both are possible. Both of them will react with d6, and they actually blitz out, and Nepo played knight to f5. Still there in theory. You can notice that both of them are blitzing out everything. Knight h4, f takes, and g6. Big theoretical battle, 12th move in the game already. Before that, I guess, instead of g6, there was potentially some other move, maybe? Or no, this is actually the only one, because there is a big threat. Queen to h5. So g6 is a reasonable move here. White wants knight e2, knight c4, or knight to e4, where after he puts the pressure of f6. On the other side, he has dead checkmate threats. Potentially speaking, bishop pair could be better in the endgame part, because of the value of the bishop pair in general. But on the other side, knights are very tricky, especially when it's a mid-game battle. Rook to b8 played. Nepo is putting the pressure on the pawn on b2, so rook b1. I think b3 is not the best idea because it runs into the bishop g7, and this definitely creates some trouble for the rook on a1. So playing rook to b1 is more wise here by Hans, or there's even some traps here. Maybe Hans picked to go a bit more aggressive, even allowing the rook to take on b2. That's also another option. Now queen to f3, and then also Nepo has to be wise what he is responding now. But I believe bishop g7, there's some trap. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, and queen f7, king d8, queen takes g7. Maybe queen d4 is what he wants later to trade off the queens here. So knight e6, let's say. Queen d6, queen f7, king d8, queen takes here, queen d4. That's the only reaction for them, because if they would keep the queens on the board, this is practically over for Nepo. So knight e4 here, threatening many stuff, and of course Nepo is looking to trade off some material, specifically queens in this case. Looking good, Eleyah. Are you live at the event? Yeah, I'm very, very much live. They are just 2 rooms next to me. Day 1, game 2. Correct. There is 3 more days. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Europe time. Exactly. So rook b1 on the board, bishop g7 played. And as you already know, maybe some of you don't, one of the very important techniques in strategy is to cut off pieces in the game by meaning of restricting the pieces. So how are you going to restrict this bishop properly? You're going to push c3 pawn. And this will restrict the bishop on this diagonal. That's the important stuff. Also, we can notice that king is restricted, so black can castle. If black could castle in this position, then Nepo would be already much better. But here not. Not possible. And Hans is doing the move c3. Correct move. Nepo again moving around. Using the restroom properly, I guess. He played rook f8, honestly. He's already challenging the rook on f1. It's a very imbalanced game. 2 bishop versus 2 knights. Nepo playing so fast. Alright, Nepo is getting back to his office. But Hans, in meanwhile, he played queen to c2. So he wants to get maybe protection over the b2 pawn. And then bring the rook to the game, and also queen protects this square very nicely. That's actually what we get.